Welcome! If you're just getting to know Bamboo, you may have been introduced to the 4 building blocks that Bamboo uses to structure builds: tasks, jobs, stages, and plans. Today we're going to really get to know them and understand how this structure compares to other continuous integration tools you may have used. If you've worked with continuous integration servers in the past, you're probably familiar with the concept of jobs. These are sort of the basic or most atomic unit in several CI servers, and you can chain these jobs together so that you're actually running several jobs each time a build is launched. But the chaining configuration can get pretty tedious and brittle if you only have a one-to-one upstream-downstream relationship to work with, especially if you want to run some jobs simultaneously, then execute a single job when all the parallel jobs complete. In this case, you have to take a guess at which of the parallel jobs will finish last and chain your downstream job to it. But what happens when some other job finishes last? Or worse, what happens when some other job finds a regression? You certainly don't want to promote a bad build to the next environment, so you have to figure out some way to encapsulate all the parallel jobs and stop the whole works if there's a failure in any one of them. Bamboo is a little bit different. Bamboo starts with the assumption that you will want to chain steps together, and whenever possible, you'll want to run steps in parallel. So it's designed to make both that build flow and that encapsulation really easy to set up. If we diagrammed a typical build chain in Bamboo, it would look more like the diagram shown here. So let's abstract that out a bit. The atomic unit in Bamboo is called a plan. Plans are made up of one or more stages. Stages are made up of one or more jobs, and jobs are made up of one or more tasks. Now that might seem like a lot of moving pieces, but they all have their purpose, which will become clear as we look at each of those elements in more depth. And look, unless you're making a Hello World app, build engineering is complicated. There's just no getting around that. If it were easy, we wouldn't need people with specialized skills like you. So our mission with Bamboo is to make your job suck less. Hopefully, a lot less. Now let's go through each of these building blocks from the ground up, starting with the task. Tasks are the fine-grained instructions for building, testing, packaging, and deploying your code. There are 4 basic flavors of tasks, shown here with some examples. An important thing to know about tasks is that they execute one at a time in the order you specify. If a failure is encountered, Bamboo will complete that task to whatever extent possible, then stop the entire build. Tasks run sequentially inside their container, which we call a job. Grouping tasks into jobs is how you tell Bamboo in what order your tasks must be run. And because it's possible to run 2 or more jobs simultaneously, jobs provide a way to organize your build into tasks that are dependent on each other and tasks that are independent. For example, you might want to run checkstyle on your code before building it, the idea being that if there are too many violations, we won't even bother compiling. To accomplish this, there are actually 3 tasks involved, and they all have an upstream-downstream relationship. First, check out the code from source control. Second, run checkstyle. Third, do the actual build. These tasks are grouped together in a job because they need to be executed in a certain order. Other places in your pipeline might include steps that are completely independent of each other and can be executed simultaneously or in no particular order. You may have one task that runs integration-level tests and another that runs UI-level tests. To save time, you can put those tasks into separate jobs, allowing them to be run in parallel so long as there are enough build agents available to do so. Jobs execute in parallel inside their container, which we call a stage. Stages provide an easy way to group jobs that are independent and run them in parallel. It's also how we can ensure that other jobs are run alone or in a certain order. Simply put, stages are how we control the flow of job execution. Within a stage, jobs will be run simultaneously if there are multiple build agents available. In other words, don't put the job that deploys your application into the same stage as the job containing your compile step. There'd be nothing to deploy, and the build would fail unnecessarily. In addition, Bamboo will wait until all jobs in the current stage are finished before moving on to the next one. Even if one job completes several minutes before the others in its stage, which thereby frees up a build agent, Bamboo won't start executing jobs in the downstream stage until all the others complete, and complete successfully. That might seem like a small thing, but it has big implications for making continuous delivery pipelines. Really, it's kind of the special sauce that makes this easier to do in Bamboo than in any other CI server. Let's say we want to run multiple test jobs in parallel against a QA environment before pushing the build up to the next environment. Stages ensure that the deploy won't happen unless and until all the test jobs complete successfully, so we don't deploy a bad build. Stages make it really easy to go back and forth between running jobs in parallel and running them sequentially. That's a big difference from the rigid upstream-downstream relationship other CI servers use, which can be very limiting and make your pipeline brittle. Lastly, a stage can be designated as manual, which really just means push button. Let's say, for example, that you want to build with every commit and test that build in a pre-production environment. But you don't want to push every single build to production. Simply make the deploy to production stage manual. This way, Bamboo will automatically execute all the stages up to that point with every commit. And when you're ready to deploy one of those builds, simply locate it in Bamboo and push the button to resume execution of the pipeline. This way you can have a single pipeline configured that runs all the way from your source code out to production and still control when those last steps are executed. Stages execute sequentially inside their container, which is called a plan. The plan is your whole build pipeline from start to finish. Plans can be triggered by changes to source control, they can be scheduled to run at certain intervals, or run only when a human comes along and pushes the go button. Plans also have parent-child relationships, where the successful completion of the parent plan triggers the start of one or more child plans. You can also override a handful of global configurations on a per-plan basis to fine-tune them. Maybe you want to give certain users administrative permissions, but only to one or two plans. Maybe you want to keep most build results around for 3 weeks, but on one particular plan you'd like to keep them longer. If you want to play around with these kinds of settings, the help docs will guide you through the mechanics of it. So let's wrap it up and review. Tasks run sequentially inside their jobs, jobs run in parallel inside their stage, and stages run sequentially inside their plan. By compartmentalizing build steps this way, Bamboo gives you the perfect blend of power, flexibility, and control. Thanks for watching. Now don't just sit there, build something.